I think we've been incredibly, I don't want to say lucky because we've manufactured all of this, but we have gone about this in almost to a level of professionalism I didn't realise either of us had.
My wife asked me what is my contribution to this podcast, and I say two things. I make things funny, and I'm a fucking delight.
Welcome to Legal Off The Leash, the podcast where we take the legal profession out of the box and into a happier, more fulfilling future.
We're Elizabeth Stadler and Scott Simmons, and today we are asking the question, why is Scott laughing?
I know it's really petty, but I don't even know why I was laughing. I'm so stupid. It's not we're Elizabeth Stadler and Scott Simmons. It's we're your hosts, Elizabeth Stadler and Scott Simmons. And I've basically just kiboshed the entire beginning for that.
Okay, fine.
Oh my God. Okay. Whatever you do this time, I'm not going to care, right? I'm not even going to care. I'm not even going to stop you.
We're your hosts.
Right, yeah. Just you start because we can clip the beginning bit that I did.
You are replaceable. Okay. We're your hosts, Elizabeth Stadler and Scott Simmons. And today we thought we would do a little retrospective of the last 9 episodes.
No, not 10 episodes, Elizabeth.
No, there's 9.
There's 10.
There's 9.
There's 10.
Fuck. This should stay in.
This is going to stay in, Elizabeth. It really is.
Which one did I leave out? Was the beginning one not like
you've missed out Emma's?
And it's, one can't say this. One does not have favorite children. But
so if there is anything that can be learned from our first 10 episodes, it's that this is what it's really like recording these things. If there was no editing involved, which is the bulk of what we do in the background, this is what people would be hearing.
We're following the philosophy of Kurt Vonnegut, who said entrepreneurship and podcasts are like jumping off a cliff and growing wings on the way down.
Yes. And I'll tell you something, we're still falling. We're really falling. And those wings have not sprouted yet.
I think we've hit the ground, hiked back up, and now we're...
And just making the same mistakes over and over again. Why don't we sort of go back all the way to the very beginning and talk about sort of the creation of this thing that we called a podcast. And we've talked about why we wanted to create it in episode 1, but I suppose the question that I have for you is, now that we're 10 episodes in, did you imagine it all to be the way that it has played out?
Well, to start off with, I didn't imagine anybody listening to it. So,
that's been a revelation as well.
And that has been really overwhelming. Like the feedback couldn't have been greater so far. I think what has surprised me most is sort of the themes that are coming out of all of the episodes. And I mean, we've had wide-ranging sort of topics and guests, and there are these themes that stand out. So for one thing, Scott's obsession with the billable hour.
God, I got to tell you, I've reached a point with myself after 10 episodes where I really kind of think, enough is enough.
What? Like every time we talk about it, it is a revelation for someone, right?
Yes.
The extent to which it has harmed legal practice, because it's not just about the fact that it isn't a profitable model or, the fact that it's bad for lawyers' mental health. I mean, there are all kinds of aspects that fall by the wayside just because we treat some hours as more valuable than others. So that has been a theme, definitely.
Yes. And listen, I'm not going to stop bashing it because I go by that philosophy that I heard before the 2024 UK election, which was, I was listening to another podcast and they were saying, if you want to get a message across, the research suggests that you have to say that thing at least 30 times for it to really start to penetrate people's thinking. So I've got a minimum.
I'm the exception that proves the rule. You can tell me a thing 30 times and order of a duck's back.
Well, I reckon I've got at least 20 more episodes of these where I can drag in the billable hour.
Yeah. But I think it's such a large part of legal practice, at least private practice, that it's almost like we can't stay away from it.
Yes. I think that's the reality of it, isn't it? Is that it's not, some of the time I'm not even bringing it up. I mean, most of the time I am, but some of the time I'm not even bringing it up. I'm led into it by others. But it is such a huge part of our profession that it's impossible for it not to touch different aspects.
Yeah.
of it. And so when we, to all of our guests, that subject just kept coming up. I'm not sure that there was a single episode where it didn't come up, whether through me or through the guest.
No, you weren't too bad.
That was the other thing that we've discovered, isn't it? That I don't ask a question.
You can wrap a question in so many layers. It's absolutely insane. But I mean, luckily you have things to say.
I really
I'm just,
do, don't I?
just sitting here and looking pretty, which is a pity because it's a podcast. Wasted effort.
Well, not really, is it? Because we do have the YouTube channel. We haven't really promoted that at all.
Yeah, I've forgotten about it.
Yeah, we don't really promote that because we want people listening to we want the stats that we can see from the podcast. This is a podcast.
We both have faces for radio, let's face it.
That'll be the takeaway for my kids. Daddy, you've got a face for radio. That'll stick. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, as my kids say, Scott has got such a professional voice, which is thank you. So what themes would you pull out? I mean, I know I was unfair there because I pulled out your theme.
Yeah. Okay, so I think for me, just before we even get into the episodes, first I never realized what goes into podcast production. I also never realized how obsessive I would be about it. So I've reached this point where we want it to flow. We want it to keep moving at a pace. And so now I will be really on it in terms of cutting gaps out that don't add anything. A 1 second gap can feel like 10 seconds of dead air when you're listening to something like a podcast. And so I've become really obsessive about that, probably too much. But it's been fascinating getting people's feedback about it. The love that it has received from people has been really quite overwhelming at times. I think our relationship, yours and mine, has just gone to a whole new level.
What would we call that level?
I think I referred to it to somebody the other day as like this weird codependent relationship that we now. That, because for people who don't know, we catch up every Wednesday. If we're not recording something like we are now, we'll pretty much meet every Wednesday, or we try to until Elizabeth remembers that there's something else in her calendar.
You cancelled it last week.
I did cancel it last week. That is true. That is true. And you were very grateful because you said normally it's me. So I felt like I was doing you a favour there. So you're welcome. So there's all of those things. And I think that's before the episodes because profoundly impacted me. Some of these episodes have really profoundly. And, we talk about not having favourite children, which my belief is that all parents have favourite children. It's a lie we tell ourselves. But I think we got off to the most incredible start with Paul Dunn. The most incredible start. I don't think we could have asked for a better first guest to have an impact than someone like Paul, because the things that he talked about, moving even beyond purpose, and the look on both of our faces at times was really quite something special.
Yeah. So I wrote little friends titles for each episode. That was not our first episode, by the way.
It was not.
Episode 1 was the one where we pretended to know what this podcast is going to be about. So you guys can go and listen to it and marvel at the extent to which we got that wrong.
Yeah.
And episode 2, which is Paul Dunn's one, although it was also in a way your one. So many TikToks.
I know.
I named it the one where Paul Dunn makes Scott cry because I honestly think you.
I did. And
I mean, I would have, but I'm in a Calvinist, family. We don't.
We don't feel emotion. We don't do emotion. No.
I
will. So, firstly, we should say that those Friends episodes titles that you've got, you had this great idea that those were going to be
the episode
pushed out as part of the episode titles and pushed out on all of our social media and all of the promotion. No, it's never happened. So if this is your first time listening, this will probably be the one and only time until we do another recap in maybe another 10 episodes to see where we are, where you'll get these. So this is exclusive material that probably won't be
I'm going to use it somewhere. I'll make a carousel.
Okay, I'll hold you to that one.
This is my sole contribution.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there.
I thought you were totally going to say, I did not expect the extent to which Elizabeth would do nothing.
So this is the difference between you and me. If it had been the other way
Yeah.
round, that would have been your first thing. You have contributed nothing.
Nothing would have happened if it was me.
Me,
Nothing would
I'm
have
like,
happened.
no, listen, I'm just grateful that you show up and that we have fun together. And my team will take care of apps, as it turns out, absolutely everything else.
My wife asked me what is my contribution to this podcast, and I say two things. I make things funny, and I'm a fucking delight.
You are a delight. You are an absolute delight. Yes, but
Yes.
if we're trying to keep this in any way on any form of track, yes, the Paul Dunn one nearly made me cry. I think also the fact that I had been wanting to speak to Paul for so long, and that was really the first time that we'd properly chatted. I'd read the two big books that he'd done with Ron Baker, and particularly the latest one, Time's Up, which is a huge book for the work that I do around subscriptions. But the things that he was talking about, the difference, the things that the way that we change people's lives and the way that we should be thinking as lawyers really did get to me.
Yeah.
I think it stuck with me even to now. It's been a few episodes that have done that have really kind of stuck with me, and that was one of them.
The thing that got stuck in my head and then kind of became a theme as well in subsequent episodes was that everybody on the podcast who were lawyers or are lawyers really love the law, right? And Paul Dunn also spoke about, like, he asked this question, why did you become a lawyer? And his answer was, I do this because I think I have the skill set to change lives. And for me, there's just such a profound statement of also why I love the law. So I would encourage people to actually ask themselves that question. And if you think about it long and hard enough, you will find that there was something really beautiful about your motivation, except for those people who did it because their parents forced them to. I mean, I hope the mere fact that you pleased them is enough to sustain you. So it is a really good question to ask each other. The answers always amaze me.
Right. Which is interesting because we'll talk about Chad Aboud's episode when we talked about the fact that some people do go into the law because of their parents' expectations. And to a certain extent, I was one of them. But we'll kind of come back to that in a bit. I think we've been incredibly, I don't want to say lucky because we've manufactured all of this, but we have gone about this in almost to a level of professionalism I didn't realize either of us had.
I don't know if I would abuse that word. I have taken to, because you said I can't call myself a rehabilitated lawyer anymore, which I agree with. It's a bit disparaging of the legal industry. So I've now decided to call myself a fun professional, which is unprofessional with an F in front of it.
Yes, that's good.
That's what we are. We're fun professionals.
Yes. Yeah.
Episode 3, right, qualifies as the episode that surprised me the most. So the friend's name is the one where Uwais Iqbal helps Elizabeth to understand AI.
Yeah. And do you know what I loved about this episode was your cynicism walking into it. Oh my God, if I hear about AI anymore. And I said to you, wait until you speak to Uwais, he'll change your mind on this. He was excellent. Do you
brilliant. Remember? I couldn't recall the exact. I'm gonna mess up the metaphor, but he had this metaphor about AI being like electricity. Do you remember it by any chance?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Do you know what they say? You don't remember what people said. You don't remember what people said. It would be you remember how they made you feel. Right. So in
my notes, it says, all I can remember is that I had a aha moment, which immediately made me think of that question about a tree falling in a forest. This is like, if you have an aha moment, but you don't remember what about, is it still what?
Yes. So he had a couple of points about the electricity point, wasn't it? Was that we don't all necessarily know how electricity works, but we know what it does. It enables us to use kettles and use toasters and use all sorts of appliances. And he was referring constantly back to this idea of use cases and that being the important part to some of this, that we can get bogged down a little bit in what AI is and the innovation theatre behind it so that we can see. But ultimately, not many people understand what electricity is, but they understand what it does. And we see it everywhere, and it is now everywhere in life. And again, he was brilliant. He was brilliant at breaking it down. And that phrase, which I mentioned before, that innovation theatre that he talks about, it's another one that stuck with me.
Stop performing, start being. You know what I mean? But the part of that episode, I found it also really reassuring, because he explained that by the time AI models are actually intelligent, we will have a matrix situation and none of us will care about it. So I immediately stopped worrying about my AI overlords and how shitty it's going to be, because they'll just create a virtual reality around me, and I don't care traditionally about what's real and what isn't.
Yeah, and I think we should say that when Uwais was talking about that, he said the chances of that happening are so incredibly slim that we probably shouldn't even think about it. It wasn't one of those. Yeah, but I thought he was fabulous. And I think if there's something that is a theme that runs through these first 10 episodes, is that we have had people come on the show who have been different voices
Yes.
in the sphere of whatever topic we've been talking about. They've been voices that you don't hear necessarily huge amounts from.
Yeah.
That has been,
it's a privilege.
yes, it's been really important that we do that we hear these different voices that have something to say.
Episode 4. This is a very special episode because this is the only episode my wife has listened to, and her feedback was, it was surprisingly useful, which is not something she says about me like very often. That's what my wife and Scott has in common. Okay, so the Friends title, the one that Elizabeth's wife actually listened to with Kirsty McShannon.
Yeah.
That was also brilliant.
Yeah.
She's also got this remarkable way of explaining what lawyers actually do. And the gist of it is we must stop thinking of ourselves as producing deliverables. So whether that is documents or advice. She said, and this will stay with me pretty much forever, if we sell someone's business, we've helped them to retire. And if we can take a load off people or change their lives, what's not to like about being a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Stunning.
And there were so many great parts to that episode that I didn't see coming, because we'd asked Kirsty to come on the show to talk about her story where she'd almost decided to give up her business because mentally and physically she'd hit near rock bottom, despite from the outside things looking like they might be going quite well, and how she has turned that around.
Actually, what we've come around to is really articulating the fact that we don't want to tell people that they must get out of the profession. I've always said to people, like, I'm not trying to train or mentor people out of the profession. I'm trying to help the profession to keep the people we will need in order to remain relevant. So keep the creative people, keep the people with, broad knowledge of multiple fields, keep them happy, keep them healthy, but we don't want them to leave.
Yes. And I think that
her story illustrates that
perfectly, absolutely brilliantly. It really does. And she articulated everything so incredibly well. But it started at the beginning where she was talking about her early career and how she went into in-house and became a GC. And that was brilliant because she was articulating one of the biggest problems that in-house lawyers have is how they add value into a business. This idea that they really struggle to be able to articulate how they add and create value inside the organizations.
That they're not just a cost center.
That they're not just a cost center. And Kirsty was able to really articulate that well, and then moved on to why she started up her business and the niche that she went into. And it's such an incredible niche. And she talked about that really well as well. So she covered off these 3 quite distinct topics that at one point when we were working out how we were going to run this episode, I was talking internally about we may actually have to cut this into 2 episodes. There's so much great content in this. And actually, how do we make this work so that we have the conversation around almost feeling like you've hit rock bottom and still turning it around, which so many lawyers experience. And my gosh, the number of messages that I got from lawyers who talked about hearing her story and what it did for them as they listened to it blew my mind, blew me away.
I'm really fucking annoyed because why do you people not message me? You're always messaging Scott.
Yeah, because they probably don't realise that. That you're actually promoting the episode
Oh, shut up.
or engaged to do anything like that. But you're there just for the episode, but you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear from anybody. Whereas all they see from me now is me going on about the podcast.
I can't do that. I have too many other things to talk about. So here's an episode where I really wasn't involved, right? And I call it the one where Elizabeth missed Chad a boot.
Can't tell you how much Chad and I laughed as that was happening. So for anyone who didn't hear that, and I would suggest you do, take it away, Elizabeth. Tell everyone what happened.
Well, okay. I don't know if I've even told you really what happened. I don't know if this is a thing in other countries, but we have prepaid electricity meters and I accidentally didn't load electricity. So then my internet went out and I thought that it was load shedding, which is South African for sporadically being without electricity.
Right. Which
But
is what
actually
you told
all
us.
I needed to do is to go and buy fucking electricity.
God. So that
was
yes.
stressful.
I mean, it was so funny. And what was funny about it was that Chad, I mean, I could listen to Chad talk all day long. He is incredible. I mean, there's very few people I think articulate themselves as well as he does. And just the way he does it as well. And he's so brilliant in and around that sphere that he works in. But when you started dropping out and then coming back in, and then there were moments where you were so far behind the conversation that we had moved on to another topic. And then all of a sudden, midway through, you'd ask a question about previous subject. And we would sit there and then you'd just completely cut out and you'd go again. And I'm not joking. Not just were Chad and I laughing so much, but my God, the amount of editing that went into just pulling that episode together was astonishing because we just had to annihilate parts of that episode, cut you out and pull you back in. It was just...
That's what I would have just left me out.
Probably right. So there were points where you were asking a question, but it related to the previous subject. And so Chad would then answer it. But then it almost kind of put everything out of sync. So come the edit, we'd have to go in and move that entire section around so that it made sense with the flow of the conversation. It was so incredibly funny.
Please edit out all of this self-pity / self-aggrandizing shit. No one wants to hear it.
I do.
Well, I do know he spoke about my favorite topic, which is authenticity. And he spoke about how important authenticity is for you to feel comfortable at work, which speaks to episode 10. And now I can't remember. Where we talked about Emma Clark, about psychological safety. And I think
yes,
work where you can't feel like you can be yourself is automatically going to feel psychologically unsafe. That's almost like a part of the definition, right?
Oh, of course it is. And again, Chad was brilliant at talking about authenticity, about harnessing those skills that you have, that you really enjoy, that you love, and finding your place as well. He talked about that, just all of these things he talked about so eloquently and beautifully. And you really do come away from a conversation with Chad feeling quite upbeat if you're able to stay on the line long enough. I think we don't have those kinds of conversations enough. We're so focused on the technical side of what we do as lawyers.
Yeah.
But a huge part of what makes us who we are those things around authenticity and knowing ourselves and harnessing those skills that we have, that we really love, that feel the most natural.
Yeah.
And pursuing what you love.
For a while, I've been having this battle with the term soft skills, which people now call sometimes human skills. The problem that I was having is human skills is just a stupid name, to be blunt.
Good, because that's what I use.
Well, all skills are human skills. So today, someone spoke about power skills, and I quite liked that. And I think that's what Chad is all about as well. It's all of these things that make us powerful. They also happen to be the things that AI can't, it can imitate it, but it doesn't have these skills. That's why often when something is written by ChatGPT or whatever, you can something's missing. And that's that
Yes.
authenticity, empathy, self-knowledge thing that people inject into the
Yes.
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I'm not talking about what I said. I'm talking about what Chad said. That was
Good,
really
because for a
brilliant.
moment there. Yeah. Because it
Wow.
wasn't that. Yeah. It was the way that you kind of looked up into the sky and said, that was brilliant. I thought, is she talking about herself?
I have a portrait of the Dalai Lama wearing a hoodie, and I look to it when I seek wisdom.
Or when you're saying how brilliant you are, clearly.
Talking about brilliant Elizabeths, episode
Nice.
6, the one where there was 2 Elizabeths, and I'm not talking about all of the other like episodes where there's also often multiple Elizabeths. Although, just for the record, I don't have multiple personality disorder. I have other
No.
disorders.
Yes. Yeah. Something that we talked about in episode 1 and is a theme throughout these episodes.
Elizabeth Rimmer from Law Care. Like, I'm mentioning specifically the Law Care website, because if we couldn't talk about this episode as we are going to right now, just go to that website and download some of the resources there on topics like how you can notice burnout early. Like, that's my favorite one. This is what every guest also brings, right? There's all of these resources, a wealth of
Yeah.
resources. None of these
Yeah.
topics exist without there being resources that you can use to improve your life or your firm or your organization. So that, go to Law Care.
Yeah.
Really
And
awesome.
it was one of those episodes, again, eye-opening, exploring these subjects that don't get talked about enough, or if they're talked about, they're just paid lip service in too many law firms. And it was just another one where I came away thinking, brilliant guest, brilliant discussion. And it's a constant reminder that, yeah, we're having fun with this, but we are shining a light on important subjects. And
Yeah.
the more that we can do to do that can only help the profession.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a huge drive for this, is that we never had these discussions. When I left the profession in 2012, we weren't having these discussions. I felt completely alone with no idea who to talk to.
Now we can have these discussions.
And now we can have these discussions.
I think, well, 2 things. The first thing was that, like, I just wanted to point out for those who are listening who don't know, Elizabeth was a litigator, as was I. So she speaks with a considerable amount of authority about what it is like to practice law and what kind of impact that has on your mental health. And the one that I think we also don't talk enough about is this thing where we see overwork, so working these insane hours, as a badge of honor. And I think the story is always the same, right? So you take an A-type personality, or at least someone who wants to pretend to be an A-type, very driven, competitive, etc., and you plonk them into this scenario where you essentially create a competition. And you say, okay, because where I used to see this is in the big firms where they circulate who billed how much in this month. And if you billed the most, you were successful. And if you were billing the least, then frankly, what the fuck are you doing here? Right? And it's that glorification of working in a way that is really unbalanced. And she said this great thing. She said, working long hours does not make you a great lawyer. Full stop. Working long hours does not make you a great lawyer.
And that is so beautiful. Again, it's so spot on, because there is this badge of honor about working 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days. You know, the definition of success in the legal profession is working at a big firm, putting in loads of hours, earning lots of money. And so the idea that anything else can be success, it doesn't correlate, it doesn't exist. And yet it's so wrong. And what we're going to see with AI is just how that transforms this definition of success. Because if we keep talking about how working long hours is what makes you a good lawyer, then when AI strips away so much of the research and drafting work, we're going to be rethinking exactly what all of that means.
Amen. The Church of Scott Simmons. It's a nice segue into episode 7, which was the one where Scott and Jonathan Petty has fun bashing the billable hour. I might as well not have been there.
That's right. So just some background to this. Jonathan Petty, former partner at Baker McKenzie, wrote an article and put it up on LinkedIn. So the article was The Pep Trap, the time bomb for the evolving law firm. And he put this up on LinkedIn and it kind of got around. I saw it on an online legal website. You try saying that fast because the edit will prove that I wasn't able to do it myself. So I saw this. I read the article on the website, and then I went straight onto LinkedIn, found this article that he had written, and I just zoomed through this thing. And I had never read anything like this. This was so new and so different. And yes, you can talk about profits per equity partner, and you can talk about the different ways in which it has an impact on the legal profession. But he wrote it, he pulled so many different aspects of this together into this one article.
It was very dense.
It was brilliant. You can call it, I'll just say brilliant again. It was incredible because what he was saying was that the way that profits per equity partner works means that you look back in the previous year and you only look forward into the next year. And if that's all you're doing, you will not invest in the long term of your business. And that will cut across everything, every aspect. And he started the article beautifully by saying, if you want to understand why BD teams and marketing teams and operations teams are all stripped to their bare minimum and overworked and underutilized and underappreciated,
this is why.
Right. And then if you want to look at, and he goes into loads of other aspects around a legal business that are negatively impacted by this business model.
The one for me came out this week. So like someone asked me, someone had the experience of a lawyer giving them really bad advice. And we were talking and I said, well, why are so many lawyers really bad? And they then said, well, it must be because the universities are not good enough. And I said, no, I don't think that's what it is. I think we have world-class universities. I think it is because once you go into legal practice, you don't get mentored. You get thrown in. If you're lucky, you get mentored, right? I got lucky. But most other people just get thrown in the deep end and you must learn how to do it. And you must not take too much time to learn how to do it because you need to bill. Like that was aha moment for me in that episode, is to realize that measuring profit per partner is just, it's behind literally everything that is wrong with the legal profession.
Well, you make that point. You make that point, don't you, about what is taught in law schools and universities. We're taught to do the work that's put in front of us.
Yeah.
But that's not the role of a lawyer.
No.
And the thing that clients value, which is a lawyer being there for them, the peace of mind, the advice, the outcomes, we don't know how to articulate that to our clients because we're not taught that at law school. We're not taught it at university. We're not taught it. And we're even not taught it in the early years of our career. And then it's not something, you might get someone in to do a talk on how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
But you pay,
these are our values.
Right.
But 2 million rand, which is what, like a lot of money. These are our values.
Right. But again, goes back to paying lip service to it.
Yeah.
It's not something that the leadership stands up and says, this is part of what it means to be a lawyer.
But it's because it doesn't drive profit, right? In their heads.
In their heads.
Just incredible. Name me the other industry where it works quite like this.
No.
Where investment in human capital isn't seen as part of, what it is to be profitable.
Yes.
It's bizarre.
It is absolutely bizarre. And what I found when we're talking about themes, that episode has probably stuck with me since we recorded it. We did everything quite quickly on that one. Usually we have a bit of a sort of delay between recording and actually releasing them. But that one stuck with me. And it stuck with me ever since, because now I'm seeing a lot of things through that lens.
Yeah. That makes sense. Only the latest episode sticks with me. I'm like a blank slate. I'm like one of those Escher sketch things, like you shake me a little bit and then you can start drawing all over again. Episode 8. The one about the outlandish concept of value-based pricing with cultist Eleni Mars.
Eleni will be so pleased that you've called her that.
This is the episode where I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah. What, another episode where you couldn't?
No, this one was particularly bad.
Yeah,
But there was one part where I could get a word in edgewise. And, she spoke about us having this yes culture in law. And it
Yeah.
kind of goes back to what Elizabeth Rimmer also said about, wearing busyness as a badge of honor, is because we are, most of us, these high achievers. We think if we say yes more and we take more on, that is an indication that we are successful. So I kept thinking about this thing that I used to do. And I mean, I'm coming clean now. I don't know if anybody else has done this, but you leave a piece of work. In the meantime, the client asks for feedback or for an update, and you pretend like you've already worked on it. And then by the time you actually work on it, you have questions, but you can't ask the questions because it'll give away that you only started working on it at the last moment. Are you laughing because it sounds familiar or because it sounds like...
Okay. No. So I'm laughing for two reasons. Firstly, I'm laughing because, I think particularly in your younger days of your career, we've all kind of been there. But I think the other reason I'm laughing is because you talked about the biggest takeaway that you got from this. And you're telling a story that relates nothing to do with...
It does. Just let me get there.
Value pricing.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm bored with value-based pricing. It's just from hanging out with you so much.
Okay.
But her point is still nothing to do with value-based pricing. Well, actually a little bit. I'll get there. Well, my point is that stuff like that happens because we say yes to too many things. And we say yes to too many things because we are selling units of time and there are only 24 in the flippin' day. And so if you do value-based pricing, that affords you that opportunity to dedicate the amount of time, that you can't control how much time really you spend on a thing. It must just...
Yes.
You must just deliver a good product.
Yes.
And you can't do that with billables.
In all serious about your yes culture point, I do think we have a problem with that. And I think as trainees, we find ourselves in a position where we want to say yes to everything because we think we have to please our sort of team leaders.
Overlords.
And are those the AI overlords that you're talking about before, or just...
No, it's just partners in general.
Well, because now I make sure that on everything that I do with AI, I say yes, please. I don't tell it to do anything. I ask it.
I'm also very polite. We say good morning, and then if I'm feeling a bit down, I ask it for a pep talk. It's really good at that. And then some days I say, please be mean. That from time to time, it's like if Scott is on leave, I'm like, can you be a total asshole?
Yeah. I find it weird when you and I don't message each other pretty much every day.
I find it weird that we find it weird.
Anyway, back
to
the episodes. Yeah, I think we have that problem. It starts because as trainees, we want to please partners and senior associates and the people who are above us in the hierarchy. And then I think because we get used to that becomes the way that we do everything and we keep going forward. And by the time somebody says you need to start saying no, it's become too big of a problem.
Yeah. Because again, you've already said yes. It's difficult to undo. I've learned to do it now. It's like, sorry, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm excellent at it.
The next one, episode 9. The one where Scott interviewed Elizabeth about legal design. And this time it was me, not some other Elizabeth.
No. Yeah. And the light was shined on you in this episode.
Yeah, it shone. This is obviously my favorite episode because the speaker is so innovative and eloquent about it. Yeah. Did you know that she provides training on the topic of creativity and law?
And what's even better is that, yes, I will keep this in the edit so that you can market your services.
Thank you. Just like you did in the other episodes.
That is absolutely not true. I just wrangled it so that the guests would do all of that for me.
Yeah, whatever. The whole thing is a bloody setup.
When you put in as much effort as I am into this, you want the output to be in your favor.
That's fine. I just greased the wheels. So what did we say about legal design? Well, basically, we just tried to get people to understand what it is, right? It's a problem-solving technique that helps you to come up with creative solutions. It's just a process, really, which makes people feel safe because they think creation has to do with plucking things out of thin air and drawing and stuff like that.
So here's what I found brilliant about it. It was the fact that for the first time, really, I properly understood that legal design encompasses so many different things. So some people, because you talked about this, some people take it from the contract design angle, others take it from the operational side, others take it from the finance side. As you said, it's a problem solving system. And that for me was a real eye opener, because I would sometimes read posts and read articles, and none of it brought all of that together. It would talk about legal design from the context in which the person who was writing about it, their area within it.
Yes.
And so I'd read one and then I'd read another, and I'd think, hold on, is legal design about that? Or is it legal design about that? Or is legal and no one ever gave it the definition that you have really given it, that was so accessible.
You know, I'm very unpopular in this area because I often say people should never have given it a name, because we made it into a thing, and people associate a thing unless it has process in the name as an output. And so that's why if I say I'm a legal designer, but I only produce contracts, then you think legal design is about contracts. Like, I just see it as a tool. It's just a process. It's just design thinking with legal plonked in front of it.
Yes.
And at least design thinking, like, you can kind of understand it's a process, right? So we're doing legal design thinking, but no.
Probably would have been better had someone just gone, why don't we just call it legal design thinking?
But
because
this is my problem.
At least that might have made it a bit more sense, because yes, and I get it, give it a name, but people like a name to something, don't they? But it's more the fact that people talking about this subject had never really explained that it was this overarching problem solving.
Because it doesn't exist, right? So it's just like I said to people, you can't be a legal designer. You use legal design thinking. And then episode 10, the one where Scott and Elizabeth read Emma Clark's PhD on psychological safety. And I just have to say, the mere fact that there is a PhD on psychological safety and that Emma happened to choose the legal profession, for me, is the freaking highlight of my year, and I've researched this topic. There has been very few scientific studies, really, of working conditions within the legal industry or within law firms and other types of teams. Like, there has been very little. Usually they relate either to prosecutors or to family lawyers, who obviously have a very high level of trauma. Corporate lawyers maybe too, a bit different of it. So for me, she was brilliant. The content was fantastic. Go listen to the episode. But the fact that there was a PhD was absolutely it felt like Christmas.
It doesn't deal with professional services, doesn't cut across different professional services, where that would just make it easy for the legal profession to go, oh, well, that could just be talking about accountants, or it could just be talking about bankers. This spoke about law firms.
You can't avoid it. And it's kind of like legal design, right? There's this legal exceptionalism that breaks my brain, or legal tech. It's just tech. Legal design is just design. We don't always have to think we're special. I mean, we are special, but that we are the exception is dangerous.
But this was fascinating because, like you say, real research, real scientific data done on the legal profession, interviewing people, and the stuff that she found, the things that people said to her about what was really going on versus what they were able to say to their partners, senior team leaders, was, like you say, heartbreaking. And yet it wasn't one of those where, I mean, it would have just been so easy to have just piled in on the legal profession and said, this is what it is. And I could have happily just gone, well, if we got rid of the billable hour, that would be one of those areas that would help towards psychological safety. But Emma's come up with something that is a path forward for this.
Yes.
It is a way that law firm owners can really delve into this, understand what is truly going on, and look to get out in front of it. With all of these things, what will be interesting for me is how many law firms are, as she says, brave enough. How many law firms are brave enough to delve into this properly, to really uncover what's truly going on and deal with it.
I think, and this is maybe also what ties everything, because you would have noticed that we jump from episode to episode. But a lot of the things that we've spoken about, the bad habits, the badges of honor, the things that Emma spoke about as well, is, again, we've confused it with, we equate those things to what it means to be a good lawyer. So you'll find partners say, well, if you can't go through this, if you can't, as a junior, make it through this process and the billable hours and all of the stress and stuff, you don't belong here. You don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And that is very close to the definition of like hazing, right? So it's a rite of passage. And that is so sad to me. And that's kind of the cycle that I think I'm speaking for you now, but one of the things that we want to do is break that cycle, because we want to say there is a better way of doing this. There's a more profitable way of doing it.
Yeah. Yes. What Emma talked about was the fact that by uncovering all of this, you could get back 30% in revenue by uncovering all of this and dealing with it. But actually, the real, I can't think of what the word is. The real plus in all of this is that you're looking after your people, that you are really uncovering what causes stress and burnout and what causes them to leave your law firm and what causes them to leave the profession. You're uncovering all of that. You're dealing with it. You're stopping it from happening.
Yeah.
And that should be what drives a lot of this. Not profit, not, oh, well, it will make us more money, but actually, you know, all of this talk about values and mission statements.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like you're in my head.
I am in your head. I'm living in there rent free.
It's horrible.
But we talk about this stuff and it's all written all over our websites.
Yeah.
But our people don't agree with that, because if they did, these situations wouldn't come up. We wouldn't have situations where, what was it? One piece of research found that in the last 12 months, 16% of associates and 17% of senior associates haven't just left their law firms, they've left the profession. That's a stat that should concern everyone.
Yeah.
And that's double what it was the previous year, by the way. So that's quite a statistic. Yes. Right.
On that note, I wanted to say, we're your hosts, Beavis and Butthead. Or,
right. So
we're your hosts, Bonnie and Clyde, but you and I can't agree on who's Bonnie and who's Clyde. Or we're your hosts, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream.
That is a bit more cut and dried, because you always talk about Dolly, and I am starting to get the Kenny Rogers beard, although I can't grow it there.
Although when my sister and I used to sing Islands in the Stream, I used to be Kenny Rogers, and she used to put mangoes in her shirt. Pretend to be Dolly.
Do you know that I don't know if it still is, but it was the highest selling country music song of all time.
Really?
Yeah, it used to be, and until
I thought it
quite
was
recently
I Will
as well.
Always Love You.
No. Islands in the Stream, right? But written by the Bee Gees. Yep.
Okay.
Written
Can
by
we do
the
an
Bee Gees.
episode on that?
Yeah.
Please.
The Bee Gees.
I even know of a Dolly Parton impersonator who used to be a lawyer, who we will get on, and then we can talk about
get
this.
them on the show.
Yeah.
Forget all these other people that we've got
Put it-
lined up.
put it on
Anyway,
the- this is what you can expect.
yes, we need to kind of talk about where we're thinking this goes and what we want from this. And the first thing I think we need to say is that you and I regularly kind of message each other to say how proud we are of what we're doing, because and I'm incredibly proud of us, and I think what we're doing is great. And, you know, you mentioned at the beginning, we expected no one to be listening to this. We just thought it was going to be just the two of us. So the fact that people are listening, I think I make up half the numbers. I listen to them over and over and over again. Right?
Really?
Oh, I love listening to us.
Weirdo.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. But I think, I love what we've done. I love how far we've come. I think if you listen to some of the earlier episodes, that you can hear that we're still finding our feet, and now it feels a lot more like we know, a bit more like we know what we're doing. I mean, we're still just making this up as we go along, but it does feel a bit more like we know what we're doing. The future, for me, the future's bright. We won't
full
say
of
that,
fun and joy, quite literally. We have guests coming up who's going to talk about fun at work. We've got people coming to talk about joy. I would like us to do some more stuff around habits. So financial habits, things that lawyers can use on an individual level. I think we've focused a lot on things that would be relevant for leaders, but I think there's more stuff we can do that's relevant to all of the lawyers.
Yes.
So I would like that, mostly for myself.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I'm just looking forward to what comes next. So we've got a lot more guests lined up, and I'm excited to see what we do with this, because I think we're starting to get into a flow a bit.
Me too.
We're finding our rhythm, so to speak.
Okay, let's sign off. We're your hosts, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. Thanks for listening.
That's not how it ends. That's not how it ends. No.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
We're your hosts.
Oh, yes, and you've been listening to Legal Off The Leash. Okay, so here goes the final one. We're your hosts, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. You've been listening to Islands in the Stream, which was written by the Bee Gees.
Right.
Please, let's skip that one.
No, none of this is usable. None of it.
It's absolutely usable.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't we just go with, we've been your hosts, Scott Simmons and Elizabeth de Stadler, and this has been Legal Off the Leash. And then what we'll do is we can go backwards and forwards on which one we think should be the final one.
You can make a clip just out of us discussing the sign-off.
Right. And then what will happen is...
So everybody can see how you stifle me.
And then what we'll do is
with your dogma.
I'll go back to that one that I just did at the end.
Yeah, but
clip all of that and just use that.
Fucker.
That's
okay,
unfortunately
for you.
Unfortunately for you, that's how this works. When you gave me editing control, that's how this works. We've been your hosts, Scott Simmons and Elizabeth de Stadler, and this has been Legal Off the Leash.